Now we'll proceed with our discussion, and I request Dr. Chirag sir and Dr. Yogesh sir to take over the question answer session. Over to you, sir.
We have questions and questions.
Hello, am I audible?
Yes, sir, you're audible.
Yeah. We'll take the first question from a total of 3 excellent sessions on different varieties of hypertension, very clinically relevant to our day-to-day practice, and excellently put together. We'll take the first question. It's from Meenakshi Sahapathi. What is the reason for high BP readings in Myers, Washington, especially in evening time? Should they be investigated when not controlled on 3 medications?
On choice. Chair comes. On choice.
Yes, sir. So is there Dr. Uday sir, Dr. Minal madam, do you want to take on this question, that what is the reason for high blood pressure, especially in the evening time? Yes.
I mean, this is Dr. Uday Jadhav here. So what is the context? We are talking about a high blood pressure in the evening in the physiological setting or in patients with hypertension? What is it that we are discussing?
In the physiological way also, that can be what.
Fair enough. Fair enough. So,
yeah,
you know, if you look at an ambulatory blood pressure chart over 24 hours, typically you will find that in the postprandial phase, the blood pressure drops. Primarily, it's because of the GI circulation and the deviation of flow from the skeletal muscles into the viscera. Post that, the blood pressure starts going up. So that's not a hypertensive response, that's a normotensive response. In a hypertensive individual, it's extremely important to look at that evening rise. You will get an evening rise. Let's say if you look at a typical ABP chart for hypertensives, you do get that rise, let's say between 4 to 6 p.m. or so. But if you get a rise pre-dinner, that rise is considered significant for a hypertensive response. That's the reason if you look at HBP recommendation, HBP recommends home blood pressure 1 hour after waking up, 1 hour prior to dinner, 1 hour prior to dinner, right? And not at bedtime, assuming that all patients will then go for their dinner. So if that blood pressure reading is on the higher side, it's considered a significant reading. And that's taken into consideration of how we treat patients. That's my call on that.
thank you.
Sir, we have one more question. That if 50 years male with known case of hypertension taking amlodipine 10 mg atenolol 100 mg and hydrochlorothiazide 12.5 mg since 5 to 6 years still also have BP in the range of 150/90 and now he complains of erectile dysfunction. Which hypertensive should he stop first, beta blocker or hydrochlorothiazide?
I think Professor Muruganathan will answer this very nicely.
Yeah. Hello.
Yes, Dr. Murugan, we are able to hear you. Please go ahead.
Yeah. The question is, which is the best drug for erectile dysfunction, correct?
Yes, sir.
To avoid the erectile dysfunction, which to be stopped, beta blocker or hydrochlorothiazide?
So the patient is on amlodipine and hydrochlorothiazide, is it?
Yes, sir.
Hello?
Amlodipine, atenolol, and hydrochlorothiazide.
And amlodipine.
Okay. No, actually, you know, the best beta blocker for erectile dysfunction is nebivolol or bisoprolol. So atenolol should be stopped. And amlodipine can be continued because amlodipine doesn't affect the erectile dysfunction. But definitely atenolol should be stopped. But at the same time, you must also see that his blood pressure is under control. So for the sake of erectile dysfunction, if you stop the drugs and if the BP goes up, that is not good. So we need erectile dysfunction to be restored as well as the other problems of hypertension also should be controlled, because hypertension itself is an endothelial dysfunction, not only emotional dysfunction, endothelial dysfunction also. So you must control the blood pressure, and you must titrate the dose according to their new drug, and the atenolol should be stopped, and then we try the other beta blockers if it is necessary. Bisoprolol or nebivolol can be tried in the erectile dysfunction, and titrate the dose and continue the blood pressure. The key is control the blood pressure, at the same time avoid erectile dysfunction.
Thank you so much, sir. Sir, in changing over of high blood pressure drugs, which molecule requires most attention?
No, when you change the drugs like clonidine and beta blockers should not be suddenly withdrawn. You should reduce it gradually, especially clonidine. If somebody is on clonidine, if you withdraw, there will be rebound hypertension. Same way beta blockers also. You should reduce gradually, and then you must change. And you must also know why you are changing a drug, because the side effects of the drug, or whether the blood pressure is not under control. There are so many reasons, and individually you must try. But definitely, generally, if there is clonidine or beta blocker, when you want to change over, you must reduce the drug. And then now again, now the newer thinking is, when somebody is under control for quite some time, de-escalation, or reducing the prescription. But that is not yet confirmed. But they are also thinking about somebody who is well controlled, who has got good lifestyle modification. They can change the drug or reduce the drug.
Okay, sir, thank you. And we have many questions, but this question is from Dr. Bhavya, that how to check the accuracy of home blood pressure monitors.
Dr. Uday Jadhav, you would like to take the question?
Yes, sir. And you can also make a comment after I make. The home blood pressure monitors are automated monitors. They have been accredited by the British Instrumentation Society. So there are accredited blood pressure monitors. Most of the standard ones, like your Omron or Sarka or Microlife, all are very standard ones. There is no way in which you can recalibrate and all those things. So once you take it from a accredited vendor and a accredited model, you can prescribe it to the patients. Go online, you will find a list of them, and then recommend that to the patient. Do not use a monitor which doesn't stand the test of time. And that's how we go forward with it. Sir, Dr. Muruganathan.
Maybe till time Dr. Meenal can comment on it. Dr. Meenal, madam.
Yeah.
Your voice is mute, madam. Your voice is mute.
Yeah.
So I fully agree with Dr. Uday Jadhav, sir, because these home monitoring of blood pressure, which are the ambulatory blood pressure monitoring devices, they are highly calibrated devices, and of course, if still you are
now I'll come to Pallivelu. Pallivelu, your views now on this stressful situation.
So the idea is, if you are suspicious of the device or some suspicion regarding the patient's lifestyle, you can give a time gap and repeat and that's ambulatory monitoring of blood pressure, but we'll have to go with the devices. We'll have to believe them.
Anyway, we must promote home blood pressure monitoring. There are a lot of newer devices have come which are standardized internationally. Now everybody has got a doubt that home blood pressure monitoring is not accurate. Those are the days, when we started home blood pressure monitoring, we thought home blood pressure monitoring is not that accurate compared to mercury manometers. But now all the home BP monitors, standardized monitors, internationally approved monitors have come. And if you use them properly, the key is whether you use home blood pressure monitoring or any other BP monitoring, accurate measurement is the key. And of course, you will have to standardize periodically. And then if you follow those settings and get the advice from the physician, and you continue home blood pressure monitoring, that will be a very helpful for doctors also to control, and it also empowers the patient. Over to the master of ceremony.
Thank you so much, sir. It was a wonderful session. I would like to thank all the panelists and the chairpersons for this wonderful session. So now we need to take the speaker shot. So I request everyone to turn on their camera so we can have the speaker shot.
Yes. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
Thank you.
Now we'll proceed towards the RM oration. But before that, we have an esteemed faculty from Zimbabwe. And I would request Dr. Yash sir to introduce them.
Good evening, everyone in India. Good afternoon to Zimbabwe. Good morning to early part of US. And to all of our dignitaries, we have esteemed guest from Zimbabwe, Dr. John Mangwiro, who is Chairperson, International Diabetes Federation, Africa Region, Deputy Minister of Health and Childcare, Zimbabwe, Consultant Specialist Physician, and who is Consultant Specialist Diabetologist also. He speaks about diabetes specialty plenty of way around, and it is indeed pleasure that he and his colleagues and his fellows, along with the doctors of Zimbabwe, have joined this conference through this virtual platform. I would request Dr. Mangwiro to share his thoughts and his vision to build on in these interactions. Thank you, Dr. Mangwiro. Please.
Yes, good afternoon, colleagues. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm very happy to be in this conference. I came in a bit late because we are running around with this COVID issue. Definitely, this conference was long overdue. We have picked a lot of things. People have learned, and you see, the future for diabetes and hypertension definitely is a lot of awareness. In Africa here, people may not definitely be aware that they have hypertension. And when they are on hypertensive treatments, when they get diabetes, the quickest belief is that the antihypertensives have caused the diabetes, or vice versa, to say the anti-diabetics have caused hypertension. Because you find that these people also, for example, they normally also, as soon as they are started on treatment or something, they may have erectile dysfunction in the past or not. So what we really want us to do is awareness as much as possible through different government arms and members of parliament, because this is the current problem of the world. Because in the past we used to have patients being admitted with HIV or AIDS, but these days the same people, the HIV people who are positive and on treatment, are now dying because of hypertension or diabetes. So it's another direction where we need really to watch that as we go along. Our endocrinology, we should also turn it back to see what is happening to the people who are HIV positive, who are already on medication, so that these centers for HIV management can also incorporate this very, very useful topic, diabetes and hypertension, because those people need this attention. And also, I'm very happy when we were putting up the ACE inhibitors and the ARBs. These are now relatively cheap in our countries. So it's something that we really encourage each other to say, well, let's continue to really outline whatever we are doing to colleagues, to our nurses, and then we need to spread this knowledge and ideas down even to out of big towns, because sometimes the rural folks miss the most important information and then they get in trouble. So it's very important and prudent that we spread the word, and then we can give them as much medicine as we want. But if they are not aware, they normally tend to traditional healers, faith healers, and yet these things can be managed very easily. So it's very important that even we need to exchange with time. We need assistance in having our specialist doctors trained and our nurses, so that they can actually help us in the management of this. Because in Africa, we definitely have a deficit of those specialized in this field. So it's important that as at this level, we also need really to think of our colleagues because they are the backbone of this. And I also want us to speak a lot these days on COVID and hypertension and diabetes, because we are finding that people are dying of diabetes and COVID, and these are more their vulnerability. So we need also to really talk about COVID as a new problem in the globe, because COVID is a metabolic disease, and we also seeing its devastation that's happening. So as we go along, may we also make sure we really talk in terms of the current situation and relevance in terms of COVID-19, because this some people do not believe until they get in trouble. And if we also possible, we can look into this topic and really come up with medicines that may also help in the treatment of the COVID-19 along with the diabetes and hypertension. If we could get time, maybe come up with a paper which really helps us to say, is there any relevant drugs that might help us in COVID or hypertension that might help patients who are on this treatment? Because diabetes and hypertension, like you say, the statistics is frightening. So we definitely are going to get a lot of our colleagues or people dying because of hypertension and diabetes, and they may not understand what's happening. So as a group, maybe we need really to establish and come up with ideas on how to disseminate information to the world about treatment with COVID, other than HIV or the metabolic syndrome itself, or even obesity and all of those things. We definitely need to understand that COVID-19 is going to be with us for a long time. I think with those words, I want to thank everyone, and we will continue to participate, and really thanks very much for opening the platform to us and all over. I have colleagues listening here in Zimbabwe and in other different countries. And we hope that the organization is going to continue helping us so that we manage to relieve these problems for our colleagues, for our patients, because this type of conferences, please, may they be held more frequently so that we can actually educate and protect our patients, since this is a very important chapter. I want to thank you all for the participation, and I'm sure this type of conferences are quite helpful everywhere. I thank you once more.
Thank you, Dr. Mangviro, and indeed pleasure for these wonderful words and the motivationals to all of our global young as well as the practicing doctors. May I request you to chair the further session, which is our Dr. R.M. Shah Oration Award. If you be part of it, and it will be our pleasure, along with our chairpersons, Dr. V.N. Shah from Ahmedabad, and your dear and near friend, Dr. Mayur Patel, is also joining me to chair the Dr. R.M. Shah Oration Award. Over to Dr. Mayur sir, Dr. V.N. Shah sir, and to Dr. Mangviro.